is we'll introduce the booklet and go through how to use this on your own. And then we'll also go through kind of little insider tips. So the cleanse can be a little bit more inviting and welcoming for anybody who's doing it for the first time. And I wanted to start by just talking about how I got into doing this. And it started for me when I was an undergrad in college. I was at UC Berkeley studying public health. And at the time I got introduced to yoga, and that was really helping me just feel better about my body and be more centered and more calm. And yoga and Ayurveda, which is more like an Indian medicine, are very closely tied together. And so I had gotten a book, and there was an Ayurvedic cleanse in there, like a 9-day cleanse, where basically you just eat rice and dal. It's something called khichdi. So I did that. That was the first time I did a cleanse, and I was amazed that I thought I was healthy, and then I realized I wasn't actually that healthy. I wasn't aware that it wasn't normal to have, digestive issues, like a little bit of stomach pain every time you eat, or like a little bit of constipation, or just feeling tired and lethargic. I thought that was just a part of being, a student and being overwhelmed and having, anxiety and feeling ungrounded. But after I did that cleanse the first time, I felt so much clearer. My digestion was so much better. My mind could function better. I noticed I was getting better grades. I could bust out my essays a lot faster than I used to. So as a public health major, I started thinking, oh, this is interesting because this is not anything we ever learn about, and it's having such an impact on my health. So I got more and more into it. I tried a bunch of different cleanses. I've done ones with shakes. I've done ones without shakes. I've done ones where it's like 21 days strict and vegetarian, or ones that are a little bit more lenient. And then the one that we're doing, this 28-day cleanse, is kind of a combination of what I found worked from a bunch of different cleanses that I've done. This one is one that I feel is sustainable, and it's doable for all people, because some of them can be really intense and harsh, and can be difficult to do if you're not used to eating that way. But we're basically eating everything we want as long as it's not processed food with this type of cleanse. And then at the same time, we're not necessarily cutting out any food groups. So if you eat meat, you can continue to eat meat. If you're a vegetarian, you can do it as a vegetarian. If you need a little bit of caffeine, green tea is okay. And I even say, if you need to have a little bit of coffee, go ahead. Because that's one of the biggest questions I get is, can you have your coffee? And I say, you know what, have a cup of coffee. If you're doing everything else and having half a cup of coffee a day, that's great. You should continue to do that. And then I also found that with this cleanse, it's something that I'm able to do pretty much year round, but I cheat all the time, just probably not every day. For 80% of the time, I'm able to follow it. And then when I go out to eat, or where there's a party, or you're just craving something, you have it, and then you still, though, are feeling good and eating healthy. And I think another motivator for me is that with everything that we do to be healthy, I find the biggest way we can impact our health is just by what we're doing every single day, 3 times a day or more, which is eating. And I think all of us have had somebody in our lives who we've lost to a preventative disease. Somebody who could have been with us longer if they had better eating habits, or just took a little bit better care of their bodies. And so that to me is a huge motivator for trying to prevent disease rather than deal with it after the fact when it's already happened. So that's a little bit about myself and how I got into it. And then so we can kind of go through just page by page. So the first page talks about why to do a cleanse. And we went over most of that, and I think it's just The health benefits are endless. Let's see, is this coming up? Yeah. Yeah, the benefits are endless, and then I feel like most of us, not everybody, but we all could, we have extra weight that we're always kind of, dealing with, and I think that's just the effect of the kind of lifestyles we live. We don't necessarily walk to work. We don't walk to do our errands. We don't walk to go to the grocery store. We don't always have time for the gym. And in America, our portions are huge, and we tend to, eat on the go. We have a very different relationship with food than, let's say, somebody who's a farmer on the land working all day eating really fresh, healthy food. So I think why do it? Yeah, healthy weight is important, and then also just our habits. And I find that I do this once a year. I get really good. I'm in a great groove of eating healthy, and then each month I slip a little bit, I slip a little bit, I slip a little bit. And then last year I was pregnant, I slipped a lot. And so it just really helps to have a 1 month of the year that kind of resets you and gets you back into good habits. And then the other thing is that we're constantly bombarded with toxins. Basically everything we do, like the stuff I put in my hair, the stuff I put on my skin, the soap I use, shampoo, conditioner, cleaning products, the air we breathe, the pollution outside. Most of our food has preservatives and pesticides, even our fruit does. So it gives our body a chance to for our livers to do their own job and help to clear some of that out that we don't need to be carrying. And interestingly, what our body does with some of these toxins is it wants them to not be floating around in our bloodstream and in our body. So it takes it and it stores it in fat. And so the more toxicity we have, the more we tend to hold on to fat, because that's a space for the toxins to be stored in. I think we're going to continuously have issues with this. Yeah, okay. And I talked a little bit about the benefits too. Like when I did it, I felt better, my mood was better, my digestive issues went away. And then also with people with skin issues and allergies, your immune system can be overreactive too. If you just do have a lot of toxic load in your body, your immune system tends to be more reactive. So it helps to clear that out. And then also a lot of the preventative diseases that we see, like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I remember a friend of mine who, her and I would do the cleanse together, and then one year she got her husband to do it, who had really high cholesterol and high triglycerides, and had a history of people, the men in the family, dying of heart attacks at a young age. And she got her husband to do it, and his numbers just in a 3-week period had changed so drastically from being really high into normal range, to the point where the doctor was like, what the hell did you do? This is impossible. So I've even been impressed myself by how effective it can be to just do, a few weeks of changing our habits. And then, so our basic guidelines you guys all have on the postcard, and this I like to put on my fridge or just somewhere handy, so it's kind of a reminder of what to do and what not to do. So the things you can enjoy, I like to think of it as things that are alive, or were recently alive, or were once alive. So fruits were once living, vegetables, grains are all living, meats, nuts and seeds, legumes, which is like lentils, and oils as well, all come from things like olives and coconut. So all of that's living. And the things that, not to have, I think the biggest overarching one is just processed food in general. Like if you take that out alone, you're basically doing somewhat of a cleanse. And then we'll go a little bit further. The sugar is good because almost all of our stuff has sugar added, and our taste buds actually become desensitized to sugar. So when we take it out, our taste buds can resensitize. So a little bit of sugar can go a lot longer. And also we tend to just over time our blood sugar levels tend to increase. And a lot of people we see kind of hit, 40s, 50s. It's common for people to become pre-diabetic. So it's just great to have a few, like a month, a few weeks where we don't have that sugar, and the extra sugar that's being stored in our blood starts to get used up and go away. Gluten is controversial, I will say. There's no conclusive evidence, medical evidence yet, that the protein itself, the gluten protein, is harmful. But the thing with gluten is most of the time it comes in the form of white flour, which just gets converted to sugar in our bodies. So gluten, we could have a whole talk just about that. If it's a question for you guys, I have a lot of good resources that I can share about it. And one of the best explanations about gluten I've seen is there's a documentary on Netflix called Cooked, and one of the episodes is about bread, and it talks a lot about gluten and the history of wheat and how our wheat has changed and how our bread has changed as well. Yeah, it's a really fun watch too, Cooked. And then dairy products as well, they just tend to be like cheese is highly processed. They do find a lot of like high amounts of pesticides and hormones that are given to the cows, especially. Although I kind of give a pass to yogurt because it has so many health benefits, like the probiotics. And then alcohol, caffeine, tobacco are a little bit more self-explanatory. The caffeine is also important because we are used to taking in caffeine when we need an extra little jolt, and it releases adrenaline from our adrenal glands. So it gives us more alertness, and then we're ready to go out there and tackle what we need. But over time, our adrenal glands get desensitized again to the caffeine, so we just need more. Instead of like a single, we need a double, and then we need a triple. And so just taking it out for a while can help our bodies reset, and then it can just help our adrenal glands become to a more balanced and regulated state. And last thing I wanted to mention is to really look at labels, because I myself got tricked. Like, these to me are pretty much this, they look exactly the same. And then I came home and read the labels. The no stir one actually has sugar and palm oil in it, versus the raw almond butter does not. So yeah, just in one says organic, one says all natural. They're tricky. So reading labels is really important, especially things like hummus. You would think like it's totally cleanse friendly, but then when you look at the label, there's often preservatives in it, and there's lots of foods you wouldn't think that the preservatives are in them. So anything that's packaged in a jar, I recommend reading it. I tell my mom, take your glasses to the grocery store, because her excuse is she can't read it without her glasses. So yeah, just make sure you read the labels. So we're gonna go into the next sections, and I'm going to hand it over to Olivia now. She's going to talk a little bit more in detail about this meaty middle section of the booklet. And I'll get this going again. Do I click here, and then I'll just keep the computer going for you? Okay. Yeah.
All right, guess what, guys? You can eat an unlimited amount of vegetables. So there's no worry with that. It's best to do fresh and organic. It's good to have frozen on hand if, say, you're in a pinch and you don't have anything fresh at home. You're going to find out that you're going to the grocery store a lot more often, just because you're going to be going through it. So I suggest definitely stock up on fresh vegetables. You will eat them. I promise they won't go to waste. And then this goes for vegetables and fruits. No canned or dried. There's a lot of sugar in them, and that's kind of what we're going to try to get away from. And then also fruits, limit the amount of fruits. I know it says in there unlimited, but try to stick to 3 or 4 servings a day. And then also organic is best with the fruits.
And I'll add in about the fruits. There's some that are less sweet than others. Like berries tend to be not as sugary versus bananas are a lot sweeter. And then even apples, like sour apples, are not as sweet as like a nice Fuji apple. So, I mean, you'll be able to tell some fruits they're more sweet. So you can limit maybe the ones that have higher sugar content and then be more liberal with the berries or the ones that are not as sweet.
And then we've got legumes and grains, and I know everyone's probably like, but beans make me kind of gassy. They sure do, but you can definitely have 1 to 2 servings. But to reduce the gassiness of the legumes, you need to soak them. So you'll rinse them first and soak them and put them into a pot and cover them with about 2 inches of water, boil them, and then once it's at a rapid boil, take them off the heat and then leave them overnight for like about 8 hours, and then you can rinse them, and then that releases the enzymes in there, so it will be easier to digest, so you're not gassy this whole entire 28 days. And then oils and fats, there's a good acronym that you can remember what oils and fats are good for you. So we've got butter for B. Oh, so bacon. You cannot have bacon on this. But the acronym is bacon. So butter and ghee is okay. Avocados and avocado oil. Coconut oil and coconut milk. The coconut milk has to be unsweetened. Olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and then nuts and then nut oil. And then proteins. So best to be organic, grass-fed, because we want to make sure you guys aren't getting those hormones and pesticides and antibiotics. So organic and grass-fed meat. Okay, when to eat. So 3 meals a day and snacks. So it's best to plan out at least a day ahead. I mean, the best is a week ahead, just so that when you are getting hungry, because you are going to be very hungry the first week, that you're not going for foods that aren't on the cleanse. So please prepare snacks and foods for the day. And then a lot of time, the first week you're going to be hungry. A lot of it, you might just be dehydrated. So check in with yourself and make sure that you've had enough. If you haven't had enough water, just take a big glass of water and be like, okay, usually that will curb the hunger. And let's see, 6 to 8 glasses of water. A good rule of thumb is to drink half of your body weight in ounces daily. And then the caffeine. I know this is going to be hard, but I would try maybe limiting it starting tomorrow, so Monday isn't too crazy for you guys. You can start weaning tomorrow. And then water is going to be your best friend trying to get off the caffeine, so just keep on drinking that water. Let's see. Oh, and then you are allowed green tea, so that will help. And then if you guys are really wanting to lose weight, eating, not eating after 7 is really imperative. And then after the 28 days, when you guys are feeling great and you're accomplished and you've got a clear head and you've lost weight, we do the 80-10-10 philosophy, and she talked about that a little bit. So basically, you know, it's eat well during the week, and on the weekends, indulge a little bit. That's kind of the best way to go about that. Do you have any?
Yeah, I actually had a question from somebody today if they are expected to stay gluten-free after the cleanse. And my answer to her was, it depends. So once the cleanse is over, you'll probably start eating a little bit more of a wider range of foods. And for some people, for example, you might eat your first piece of bread and you're fine. So, you know, you probably don't need to stay gluten-free. But some people may have that first piece of bread and you're like, oh my God, I feel gross. So for somebody like that, it may be better to continue to stay off of gluten, and that'll go for a wide range of foods. Like if you eat it and suddenly you realize you don't feel good, you can continue to stay away from that one. But if you eat and you're fine, then no issues there.
So you guys are, oh, go ahead.
The avoid eating after 7, what's the parameters around that? I mean, we're assuming we're eating dinner by a certain time and definitely
Yeah.
having breakfast
So
by another
hopefully you're
time.
having dinner by 6, so you'll be done eating by 7.
And then definitely backing it up with breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
Or skipping breakfast entirely like most of us do.
No, 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit hard. One of the tricks I do for breakfast is to just make a big pot of like a gluten-free oats, or just and have it ready. So then during, in the morning, all I have to do is put a few spoons in a bowl and put it in the microwave, and then I add like different things every day so it stays interesting. Like sometimes bananas and almond butter is a really good combination, or fresh berries to it, or hard boil a bunch of eggs is another option. So then you have like eggs and avocado that you can put on like a rice cracker in the morning.
You said something about oats. And what if you have an issue or a gassy issue with oats?
I would probably say just try one of the different grains if oats don't work for you. Under the grain section, there's a list of them. Probably like even quinoa I've seen people do for breakfast. You could do something with quinoa. Or I would try even, there's one in here, amaranth. I think that's good to have for breakfast. I've had it before. It's in in some of the grocery stores, they have bins with different grains.
Okay. Yeah.
I've gotten it from there, and then I think Bob's Red Mill also sells a amaranth. Yeah.
How would rice come into play? Like, is it supposed to be gluten?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, rice is gluten-free. Our recommendation is to try and have brown rice during the cleanse, just because the white rice has been stripped of some of the actual parts of the grain, but the brown rice hasn't. So it's got a higher protein content. It's more nutritious, and it'll probably keep you full a little bit longer too. Yeah.
I was just going to talk about the oats.
Yeah.
I have heard, and I haven't tried it, that if you soak the oats overnight, then they don't bother you. They don't create the gas. They don't bother you, kind of like the beans.
Oh.
So I just thought I would.
Okay.
Write it down.
Could maybe steal
I
that.
do it like in a crock pot or something.
Yeah.
So as far as the gluten in the oats thing, as far as it's, I mean, assuming you don't have issue with gluten, like you're gluten sensitive or have celiac disease or anything like that, would it be fine to get organic, unprocessed, unrefined, regular oats?
Yes.
Is there necessarily have to be gluten-free unless you're
Yeah. I think yes. And also I think that if somebody wanted to have, like, for example, make bread, if you were to buy wheat grains, like the wheat germ yourself, and then grind it up and make bread from that, I personally think that's a completely okay thing to do. We just say no gluten because it's more of a clear distinction, because it's really hard to know what kind of bread we're buying at the store. But if you're making it yourself, I think it's fine to have the gluten if you have no sensitivities.
I'd also say that rolled oats versus quick oats are a much better option.
Yeah.
Restricted list. But one other quick question: what about honey, like raw, unrefined honey from the farmer's market? Is that a little bit of that okay to sweeten your oats, for example, or is that no?
We usually say, and it's actually in the section of miscellaneous foods to avoid. Is it under there?
I don't
It was in there somewhere.
Oh, usually we say typically no honey, just because of the whole. It's still sugar, so you're not necessarily like lowering your sugar intake if you're having the honey. But if you are gonna have sugar, that's probably the best form to have it in.
What about agave?
Same with agave, like it's the same concept. It's not necessarily a bad form of sugar, but if you're just gonna try and deprive your body of sugar for a while so it uses up its reserves, it's better to avoid. Yeah. And you had a question.
What about the sprouted grain bread? Are we trying to stay away from that as well?
And that goes back to the whole, some forms of gluten are okay and some are not. I personally think if it's sprouted grain bread and you look at, and there's no preservatives and it's basically stone ground whole wheat or sprouted wheat, I think it's okay to have if you don't have a gluten sensitivity. Yeah.
I have a question for yogurt. Should we do full fat?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no added sweeteners in the yogurt. Plain.
Yeah.
Couple questions. You mentioned no dairy. Almond milk will be a choice?
So almond milk is another one of those that's a little tricky. When you look at the label, it usually has almonds and water and sugar and some kind of preservative in it. So if you can find an almond milk that does not have anything in there, or a coconut milk, then yes, have it. But just read the labels. Most of them do have sugars and additives in them.
And the yogurt, you said basically plain yogurt. Can we do it with fruit and granola? Or
Granola probably has sugar. Yeah. Yeah. You could make your own granola without sugar.
do you allow the
And that's the same with honey. Yeah, I think it's better to avoid, but if you need a little bit. Yeah. I find for me, I'm kind of an all or nothing person. Like if I say a little bit, then I end up having a little bit every day, and then it's like I'm just having it. So that's why for me it works to just say like no honey. But if you can, you know, have a little bit, and it really just is a little bit, then go ahead and have that.
I brought some cookbooks for you guys to look through, and this is a great one. It's all cleansed food in here, so I can pass it around. You guys, yeah, you can order it on Amazon. And then this one is more after the cleanse. It's got a lot more dairy in here, but it's a great resource, definitely.
And this is a gluten dairy-free one too. You guys can look through, but this sometimes has sugar in some of the recipes, so you can really just take the sugar out, and the recipes are still fine.
So you guys are probably wondering where acupuncture kind of fits into this. So the first week is gonna be a little bit tougher than the last three. And you know, if you're coming off caffeine, you're gonna have the headaches and you're gonna be a little bit fatigued, and other symptoms can come up. And that's where acupuncture comes in, and it can help make the cleanse a little bit easier for you so that you can stay on it, and it will be more enjoyable. And then also, if you are battling bigger things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or you're pre-diabetic, or even if you have chronic pain, I would suggest coming to see me, Stephanie, or Angie, and we can work with you with acupuncture, herbs, and supplements to help kind of manage your condition.
And along with that, if you are interested in doing a cleanse where you're going to be taking shakes to substitute meals, or like if you want to lose a significant amount of weight, or if you are trying to really reverse like diabetes or cholesterol, you can talk to any of us too, and we can help guide you in whether that's right for you and what kind of shake or supplement would be best to use. And I don't say I recommend it for everybody, but then for some people, I do think it can be really helpful to have that extra help. I wanted to add a random tidbit in, and that's about the temperature of the food you're going to be eating. So I find that with the cleanse, we tend to start eating a lot colder food and a lot more raw food, and that can be hard on some people's digestive system. For me personally, it is a little bit hard on me, and I can get more gassy than I'd like to admit. But I find if I stick to eating warmer foods, then that doesn't happen. So like some brown rice and then steamed vegetables, not just having like whole raw salad for every meal, or just like shakes with raw vegetables and fruits and veggies. So yeah, temperature, and also you can add spices to warm things up, like cinnamon and cardamom are very warming spices.
What about protein powder? I've heard that whey has dairy in it.
Yeah, it does. So there are other kinds of proteins that are, yeah, there's ones that are like more plant-based, and they don't actually have whey in them. So I suggest doing those just for the 28 days. Yeah.
Salt.
Salt. That is a very good. That is a very good question. So, a lot of our food already kind of has natural minerals in it, salt included, and I think that we eat food because it's good for us and it also tastes good, and it's good to have a healthy appetite. So if you were to make your food completely bland and non-appealing to you, that's not necessarily what we're going for. So if you need some salt, I would say, in moderation, add salt to taste.
Like a sea salt.
Yeah, sea salt. Like a ground sea salt is excellent to use. But not to overdo it, of course, like anything else.
No pickles.
Yeah, no pickles. Yeah, my dad actually is a salt head, and then we stopped putting the salt and pepper shaker next to him on the table, but then he still will go and have his pickles, and it's like it's pretty much the same thing, but yeah. So she was asking about spices and pepperoncinis. Most of them probably do come preservatives if they're jarred, but then you can also find some that don't. So as long as they don't have preservatives in them, then yeah, totally fine to have peppers and pepperoncinis. So has everybody been receiving the emails that we sent out? Okay. So some of the emails we send will go in the promotions tab if you have Gmail, so just be sure to check those. And then what we'll do tomorrow is I'll send out another email that has some more tips for getting started. And then from here on out, we'll send one email in the beginning of the week on Monday. And each week is going to have a little bit of a different theme. So the first week is actually kind of about habits and how we are creatures of habit, and the good thing is all of our habits are somewhat changeable, and so we'll dive in a little bit about how to get used to a new habit. And then the second week we'll go a little bit deeper into how to detox, and we'll include a list of foods that are actually really good for just like artichokes and leafy greens, foods that you can eat that naturally help to detox the body. And then week 3 and week 4 we'll have another theme that will kind of go in a little bit deeper. So look out for those emails as well. And then we do have a Facebook group where I really encourage people to share pictures of their meals because it can help give one another ideas. So if there is a link to join that Facebook group and the emails as well. which is one of the ways we kind of can keep in touch and share and have this sense of community where we're all doing this together and we can hold one another accountable. And if you have questions, that's also a great place to post questions because other people can share their insights, just like, you know, about oats or something else that they've experienced, and we can kind of have a wider knowledge base to move forward. Okay. You asked about
The vitamin supplements and like vitamin D and
yeah.
the fish oil and stuff like that.
So we encourage you to take anything that you're currently taking, continue to take them. If you have vitamins or supplements, no need to necessarily change those up. But if you have specific questions about like which ones can you take to help or which should you not take, you can always ask any one of us and we can help you. We can help you with that. Any more questions we can answer, now is the perfect time to ask.
Are pine nuts allowed?
Pine nuts, yes. Yeah.
So are we gonna find most of the health food, the organic that we need, like at a Trader Joe's, at a Whole Foods, that technically now where we're wanting to kind of try to
Farmers market.
Yeah. I think we're so lucky in that we can find it a lot of places. I've even found a lot at Costco. Has now a bigger organic section. And then yeah, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Whole Paycheck. So I think Sprouts is a good option. Sprouts has a lot of the same things, so it's a little bit not as pricey. The Campbell Farmers Market, I highly recommend. That place is awesome. And then I was gonna add something to that, but I don't know what it was. It'll come back to me.
Well, going to the farmer's market will be the freshest vegetables, and you're going to see vegetables that you're not normally eating regularly. So it'll be nice to kind of bring in other vegetables that you don't normally eat.
Yeah. And a challenge we present is to try one new vegetable and one new fruit a week. Even if you just buy one and just test it out, try it out, see. Yeah, exactly. You know, just you can share just one, but it'll be fun to try one new thing.
How does, I mean, I guess it just depends on the individual, how your body reacts, like within like the first week, your body starts flushing, or like, are there things to look for? Or?
That's a really good question.
If you want to definitely
I find that if you're used to having sugar and caffeine in your diet, headaches is something people tend to experience in the first few days. And that's often when taking out sugar and taking out caffeine. And then I've also seen people have like their gut kind of changes as they change what they're used to eating. Like you may find that you're going to the bathroom a little bit more. Sometimes it's usually towards the more side rather than towards the less side, is another thing that I find. And then some people also you might feel like a little bit agitated and uncomfortable, especially if you significantly cut the amount of carbs that you're having. So I suggest like always do try and have some brown rice or something that like has carbs in it, so it's not a huge shock to your system. Yeah.
Or sweet potato still helps sometimes.
Yes, that's a great one. Sweet potatoes, yams.
Because then you put the cinnamon on the sweet potato
Yeah.
and it still tastes kind of sweet.
Yeah, and cinnamon actually can help regulate blood sugar as well. So that'll keep you from kind of crashing and feeling agitated. And yeah, I suggest like just try and avoid being hungry. Like that's when we tend to reach for like whatever's closest because we're starving. If you can avoid being hungry by having snacks with you as often and eating them as often as you need, that'll help you be able to make it through. And then some of the other tips we have is just if there's food that you shouldn't have during the cleanse and it's in the kitchen and it's close by, it's best to give it to somebody else or put it aside. And then if you work all day and you get home from work and it's time to cook dinner and you're already really hungry, that is often a time where your body is like, please just give me carbs or sugar, because that converts to energy the fastest, and so you will have cravings for that. So if you for example cook one day, cook enough for dinner the next day, so you can come home from work, eat, and then do your cooking, and you'll be much less likely to be like, oh my God, where's the bread? Where's the cookies? Like, I need something, because you know your body is smart and wants to survive. So when it senses that it doesn't have enough sugar or enough energy, it's gonna be really strong push for you to get those things. Question?
Exercise?
Exercise. So that's a really good point, and we do recommend exercise. I think that if you already have an exercise routine, then you're set. If you don't, now would be a perfect time to start. Even something as simple as a 30 minutes a day walking. And I know, like, for me being an all or nothing person, I'm either like, I go to the gym and I do like my intense workout for an hour, or I just don't end up doing anything. But actually having a baby has made me better about this, because I don't always have the time to go to the gym, but I do have time for, like, when the baby's napping or sleeping at night, to do a 20-minute YouTube video, or to just go outside in the backyard and just do some jumping jacks and high knees and some push-ups. So even just a 20 minutes a day, a 15 minutes a day can be really effective. So we encourage it, of course, and a lot of what we practice as acupuncturists, there's a saying that the best practitioners in Chinese medicine don't actually have any sick patients, because they're keeping their patients, they're preventing disease in all of them. So if you're the best level of doctor, you actually prevent disease, so nobody is getting sick. And it all comes down to the daily habits that you have. So with that exercise, even just a small amount can go a long way. Every day a little bit is much better than even just doing once a week like an intense workout. Any? It depends if it has.
It says there's popcorn.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
isn't it? I think. Right?
I think if it's like just
Organic.
popcorn,
Organic.
yeah,
Non-GMO.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Definitely do coconut oil.
Yeah. But you can have butter too.
Another question I often get is, what do I do if I have an event or a vacation or something is happening in these 28 days? Life happens, it's inevitable. So what I kind of suggest is, for every meal that you have to cheat or you can't follow the cleanse, just go ahead, don't beat yourself up, but add a day to the end. So rather than it, being 28 days, you have 29 days. So that way you're still doing it, but you don't have to avoid events or, not be able to participate in your normal life activities just because you're doing this.
Or a good way is to eat before the event. And then always have water on hand so you're not slipping up.
So let's say, like, after 7 p.m. I'm absolutely starving and I need something. Can I just have like a cup of green tea, because I have a little bit of caffeine, maybe because tea usually fills me up if I'm trying not to eat. Is it okay to have that after?
Yes, and like the framework that I always remember is the point is that we're doing something that's supposed to be good for our bodies, and so if you're starving, that's not necessarily being good to your body to deprive it. So yeah, I always say, like, if you haven't had a chance to eat and you're starving, by all means, be kind to your body and eat what you need to eat. Yeah.
A broth would be good for that, like a free-range chicken broth, or if you're having beef, you could do a grass-fed beef bone broth, just a very small amount, half a cup or even a full cup if you wanted to. But then we can have herbal teas on the cleanse
and stuff.
Yeah.
So you could do chamomile. I wouldn't personally do a green tea at night because that would keep me awake. But you could do a chamomile or a mint tea, something like that, or berry tea. So if you want something sweet.
Any other questions popping up, or thoughts, or comments, concerns? And just curious, I'm wondering like what has motivated people to participate, and so if anybody is willing to offer like what their motivation is for doing this 28-day cleanse, I would love to hear. But yes.
My kids and my wife.
That's good. Is it, for how many is it weight loss? Okay, good, yeah. And then for how many is it just to have a healthy routine established? Okay, so kind of both for those. Anybody do like trying to reverse any kind of disease or prevent? Okay. Okay.
I have a diabetes thing, but I think that part of that has to do with a liver transplant I had a decade back. So they have me on these medications which make the blood sugar go up. But yeah, it's sort of manageable right now. But I want to keep it, take the minimum amount of medicine that I have to.
Well, if there's no more questions,
thank you for having this session.
Oh, so we're all accessible. If you want to ask questions at any time, just feel free to email cleanse@evokeacupuncture.com or our Facebook group, or you can reply to any of the emails and we'll see those. And then please feel free to have some more food too on your way out. And then all of us will be here, so if you want to come up and ask any more questions, please do. I am honestly so grateful and appreciative. I used to do this by myself, and it was very hard and very lonely. So to have so many people be interested and participate, it's so motivating and so inspiring, and it's very fulfilling to me that other people care about. You know, I think for me it's a bigger mission of just creating a healthier society and then preventing what we can prevent and living the best lives that we can, because life is so short. We're reminded all the time, and if we can prevent, if we can prevent things that make our lives be shorter or uncomfortable, why not do it? So thank you guys so much for being here and caring about yourself and the people around you, your kids, your families, and just, I think it's a small step towards, making our communities much healthier and better place to live overall. Yeah. So thank you. I'm very grateful.